This is Tim.
And Mulele.
And this is Critiquing Comics. Welcome to Critiquing Comics. This is Tim with Mulele in Tokyo. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
Half asleep, but busy day at school, and now it's 9:30 at night, but hanging in there. So we got the latest issue from one of our favorites, Chad Bilyeu, his Chad in Amsterdam series. And in case you've never listened to our other talks about Chad or my interview with Chad not too long ago, Chad in Amsterdam, well, as the title suggests, his name is Chad and he lives in Amsterdam, originally from Cleveland. And he puts out these comics every so often where he's the writer and he'll corral various artists to draw the stories. He does do a bit of artwork on the very last page. I'm not quite sure how he did that. It's a image of an apartment building, apparently, presumably in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you think that might have been created in a computer?
Yeah, it kind of looks like Illustrator to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea. It seems to me to be a vector-based program, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
What did you think of the cover? This is an interesting cover.
I really dug the cover. The ideas in it are a little bit abstract, but I love the pose of Chad. And I like the expressions on the faces. Although the woman at the bottom looking at the lines of coke with a credit card, I mean, strippers and blow, I don't know. But
I guess, what happened to the rest of her body? Is she like sinking into the ground?
All of them are kind of just parts rather than full people. I mean, Chad is the only full person there, but no, I quite like the cover. And actually looking at the person who did the covers, his name is Dennis Galocha.
Yeah.
Galocha? Sorry.
That's CH, who can tell if it's a K or a Ch. But Chad says that he's of Twee Muizen, and I had to look up what that was. And apparently it's an artistic couple based in Barcelona.
Looking at his Instagram now, and I think it's Dennis Galocha, just like that. Mm-hmm. But lots and lots of murals, but really beautiful stuff. And this cover seems like a kind of a simplified style of what he does, or what he can do. But yeah, I like the cover, even though it is a little bit weird. It's dynamic, it's stylish, and I don't mind the the people parts in the background and foreground. Yeah.
So then the first story is called Where Dem Dollars At, which, well, I'll give the setup. I'm not going to give away the ending because the ending is very satisfying. But we see him, Chad, in his apartment looking at a $1 bill and a €2 coin. And then without any explanation, he goes out, gets on his bicycle, and goes to a strip joint. And his purpose in going to the strip joint is to ask a stripper, in America, guys stick $1 bills in the women's garters, but you can't really stick a €2 coin in a garter. So how do you get tips? And she explains it to him, or she demonstrates. And I really liked, and presumably this is a true story, but I thought that her answer was quite amusing.
His question was 4 pages long.
Yeah.
And she's asking, "Do you want to dance?" Like, if I can ask you a question first. Yeah, and even she comments on how long the question was, or what did she call it? A long, stupid question.
Next time, don't take so long to ask such a dumb question.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird comic, but it is one of those things you kind of like. Well, what is this exactly? How does this go? But I don't know. I'm kind of simple, so I would say, hey, you take coins, and if she said no, then it would be a fiver. It's like, all right, later. I gotta go somewhere cheaper. But he really gets into the wheres and whys and hows. And yeah, it was satisfying. I was kind of wondering at the beginning why this was the first one, but it seems kind of like an appetizer in that it's kind of not so serious, and it's just a curious little something.
Yeah,
lots of TNA though,
and drawn by Juliet DeWitt. So that one is just kind of an appetizer. That's a good word for it. And there's something there about Amsterdam or comparing cultures, which he's very often done in the series. But as he kind of notes in the notes at the end, where the past issues have been kind of focused on Amsterdam, and this one's more focused on him.
Yeah.
Not so much that first story, but the other stories. So next, this is the Tale of Three Cities, the Dutch Inquisition Part 4. And he's had one of these in every issue. But in this case, it's not so much a conversation. The guy in the bar says, "Hey, where are you from?" And pretty much all the rest of it is just Chad's narration as he's thinking about the different places where he's lived and, kind of the nature of the question, where are you from? And how do you answer that? And he has lived in Cleveland, in Washington, D.C., and in Amsterdam. And his artist, who is Lara Ryazancheva, perhaps, draws 2-page spreads of each city. And, they're really nice.
They are gorgeous.
The Washington, D.C. one is this big shot of the Capitol building. Really painstakingly drawn.
I'd say all three of them are expertly drawn, although
I couldn't identify any buildings in the other two, but all expertly drawn.
Yeah, and they seem to follow the same rules of architecture and physics as the Washington portrait,
the Capitol building.
Yeah, I don't know that country, but but the thing is, this one this is my favorite story of the entire book, for a couple of reasons, and full spoilers for this story because so the to be honest, I don't remember the previous Dutch Inquisition stories.
Yeah, those generally tended to be his conversations in bars with various people, or usually bars, maybe not always, but...
Well, generally, when I'm reading a comic, I don't look so much at the titles and take note of what it is, especially if I'm not expecting it to continue as a series. But here we have a comic that has always 3 or 4 stories in it, and then each of them are different titles and little vignettes of his life in Amsterdam. But with this one, or with several of them, I think actually, there's kind of a continuation of theme, not necessarily of narrative. So I remember specific stories from previous issues. I do not remember titles. So which story matched this one, I don't remember.
Okay.
But anyway, starting with the first page, I love the world map, and I also like that Chad is in the bar drinking his whatever looks like a wine, and this guy comes up and asks him, "Hey, where are you from?" And Chad, what I assume is just mentally goes through this whole thing. I mean, there's a lot of text here.
Yeah.
It's very, very dense, very, very beautifully put into the artwork, and I love the lettering. If it's a well, recently I've been doing lettering of my own and just kind of looking at what it is and how it goes. I like the look of this one better than what I'm doing. If this is done by hand or done by font, I don't know. If it's by font, hey, Chad, if it's done by font, please let me know which font so I can use it too. Anyway, this actually for the Amsterdam picture, there almost seems to be not enough space to put the captions, but the architectural, I should say the brilliance of the architectural drawings is so good that it actually inspires me to read the text because I want to stay on the page.
Yeah, I can see. I think I felt that too, subconsciously.
Yeah, it really pulled me in to the story. And when we come to the end of the story, when he finishes just talking about those three cities, and each of those cities, he has some very interesting observations about them. Mm-hmm. He does not answer the question. and it seems to me that, yeah, that is kind of a proper response. Like, the proper response to the question is to not respond, because really, the question itself has no bearing on who you are or what they think of you, really. It only entertains the assumptions of the asker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better not to. I mean, at a certain point in my life, as an American living in Japan, people ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" Or what part of America? And it's like, "Oh, I'm from Shikarigaoka near West Tokyo." I'd rather say that. And it just kind of removes their question from the air and just lets them know I'm not going to get into that. But, you want to talk about something else? Sure. Let's talk about something interesting. So I kind of felt this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we both lived here for decades, so I still kind of identify with Iowa growing up there, but yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel like I'm from Tokyo at this point, because I've lived here so long, longer than I've lived anywhere else.
Yeah, same for me. I think I'm around 20 years in 21 years, coming up on 21 years in Tokyo. 30 for all of Japan, though. So I've lived here more than any other city, including San Francisco, where I grew up, and I realized a little while ago that A, I'm never going back to that city, and B, it is nothing that I remember. In fact, looking at it today in Google Maps, realizing that the supermarkets I used to go to are gone. Mm-hmm. The movie theater I worked at when I was a kid and went to as a young adult, gone. Record stores gone. Comic shops gone. Clothing shops gone. I mean, of course, they're all replaced by other things, but, there's just nothing there. And before we got into the podcast, I was going to ask you, what is your, take on your hometown now that you've been in Japan for so long?
Well, so, I was in Iowa, like I said, but we lived in a few different places. And we moved from Centerville to Cedar Rapids when I was 14. And, I went to high school in Cedar Rapids, and that was where my parents were when I went to college, and I stayed there a couple more years before I came to Japan. But I still kind of feel more like I'm from Centerville, because that's where I grew up. And I don't know, Cedar Rapids, I don't know, maybe it's just bad memories of high school, but I don't really I don't really feel as comfortable with Cedar Rapids still.
I mean, has it changed?
Not a whole lot. I mean, things change there, of course, but it's recognizable.
The only thing that I can recognize from San Francisco was the grid. It's a very strong grid layout, but
I know that place has really changed. I think we talked about that last time. That I had heard from friends who have lived there who got out because it wasn't home anymore. It just wasn't the same place that it was when they got there.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't miss it at all. I just find it kind of curious that it's kind of gone physically, and actually it's no longer a place that I look at as, I got to get back there sometime. I don't know. And it does kind of, to bring it back to the comic, point towards kind of the subtext of this entire issue is that there's a lack of permanence to anything or any place that Chad stays. And I kind of got the feeling that he's getting ready to move. So maybe it'll be Chad in Germany next. But, I mean, for me, I don't have any sort of melancholy for where Chad lives, because Chad will be an awesome writer and comic book creator wherever he chooses to do it. But I did get the overwhelming sensation that there's about to be a giant change in his life. Whether or not he feels that, I don't know, but it did kind of come up a couple of times in several stories. Starting with the Tale of Three Cities, but then really kind of coming home in the next story.
Right. So the next story is called Phone Home, which is exactly what happens in it. And as he promised in my interview with him, it features his mom in her comics debut as a character. And we start out at her place, and it says East Cleveland, Ohio, February 11th, 2020, 16:08 Eastern Time. And she's feeding the cats. And then Chad calls her, and she's got her smartphone there, and then the rest of it is their conversation. Chad in Amsterdam and Mom in Cleveland, and talking about the cats, and some of them have passed away apparently, and what she feeds them, and a lot of it is kind of personal. There's a reference in there that he doesn't really explain. In the notes he says, "If you know me, ask me," because I guess it's too complicated to explain in the comic, because that's not what the comic is about. But
right.
But yeah, then it gets into that conversation about possibly going to Berlin. I guess he had visited there. That date is just a little bit pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And he had visited Berlin, and she asks if he could live there. He says, "I don't know. It's a real dope-ass city." So, yeah, he might be at least subconsciously thinking about changing locations. And they talk about that, too. She's saying he should be proud of himself for living in Amsterdam and staying there for so long, but anywhere he wants to live is, she misses him, but anywhere he wants to live is good with her.
Yeah.
So, and that quite a few pages, but yeah, I mean, it's just so kind of comfortable and conversational that it doesn't seem as long as I realize now that it is.
Yeah, it is completely personal, and he opens up not only himself but his family.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is kind of interesting to see this conversation take place, and I wonder how much of it or how exactly he recorded it, or what the difference is between the actual conversation and what he has presented here, because it does feel so natural, and it seems to have a lot of things that you kind of have to have a kind of family context or cultural context to understand fully, not just that one story, but the reference to Master P also threw me a bit.
A reference to what? I'm sorry.
To Master P. He's a rapper.
Okay. That just blew right by me. I don't even remember that.
Yeah. He talks about it in the notes.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that he mentioned in the story is referenced there, but.
Oh yeah, Master P is the stage name of Percy Miller. Okay.
Yeah. I would say overall, for the first 3 issues, and I could be wrong, but the way I remember it, the first 3 issues are more about his experiences of Amsterdam. And they're a little bit disjointed in their presentation. They're not meant to have some sort of flow. Mm-hmm. But with this one, I get a sense of momentum in his life. I mean, for the idea, correct or incorrect, that he may be moving soon. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's kind of compelling. So as with the other 3 issues, I'm digging this one quite a bit.
Yeah, so am I. And that's basically it. There's the appendix, and I don't know what this is. Vlot Babel. I guess, what is that? Maybe Dutch for a lot of nonsense or something. Babel. I'm not quite sure that I'm just kind of hoping that these are cognates. But yeah, just his notes page, and then that image of the apartment building that I mentioned before. Yeah. So basically 3 stories in this one, which is, I think, less than usual, because they're longer than some of them have been before. But yeah, just as interesting. Yeah.
And that's the thing that always strikes me. They're always interesting, even though they're not heavy dramatic stuff or any kind of action or dynamic comic. It's the minutia of his life that is so interesting here.
Yeah, it's slice of life and also kind of examination of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely look it up. I know we've heard from a few listeners who took our suggestion and got a hold of the past issues themselves and were the better for it. So yeah,
absolutely.
Please go for this one too.
Real quick, when did the last issue come out?
Boy, I don't really remember. I'd have to look at our site and try to see when we reviewed it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Chad and Amsterdam. Okay, so we reviewed it in July 2019. So it's been over a year.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not one to talk really, but it seems kind kind of a long break between number 3 and number 4.
Yeah, well, he did mention in the notes that it had taken a lot longer than he had hoped to finish this. I don't know why, but he's hoping to get the next. Well, he promises in the notes to get the next one out by Christmas.
Yeah, actually, he did say that. I'd be very happy if he did, but there's no rush. So, I mean, I guess I'm not really expecting a monthly schedule for this book.
No,
but it is kind of like, oh yeah, that comic that I like so much, he's made another one, great. But then there's kind of the question of, well, what happened? Mm-hmm. Why did it take so long? Yeah, Matt. So basically, to sum up, yeah, excellent book, excellent series, mm-hmm. and Chad's an excellent writer. So pick up his stuff. Yeah. I think the last time we talked about it, I asked if he was ever going to write some fiction. And he said, "Oh, maybe," and then no. But but I'm not disappointed, so it's fine. But yeah, it's just more of a curiosity.
Yeah. So if you'd like us to critique your comic, send a PDF or a link to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We'll read at least 30 pages of it, and then we'll critique it on the show. So, till next time, this is Tim.
Actually, I would say that I have been a little bit better about reading more than 30 pages recently. I mean, I know you're more the type to read the whole thing twice, but I'm
yeah, I usually tough it out even if I don't like it. But
yeah, I don't have the patience for that kind of thing. But I have been kind of re-examining my feelings towards comics, and it's given me a stronger sense of patience, and so and also stronger curiosity of what the person is trying to say. So I'm digging a little bit deeper. I'm still not going to guarantee more than 30 pages, but I'll probably read a little bit longer unless I absolutely hate it.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mulele.
And thanks for listening to Critiquing Comics. Our theme is from bensound.com. This coming Saturday, a mini episode of Deconstructing Comics, where I talk with Sam Noir and Andrew Dorland about their augmented reality comic called Ballyskillin'. See you then.
Sorry, man, I had to.
Okay. There it is.